Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Please add a word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions free. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
It is the 30-something movie podcast. It is Kids Month. We've got a bunch of cartoons and family movies that we're talking about this time. And this time around, we're taking a step back in history. We are
definitely taking a step back.
We're taking a step back to a.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not muted.
No, you're not muted. I can hear you, Pat. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
But when choosing the movies for this month, I wanted to make sure I chose at least one that was culturally appropriate. I'm sorry, did I say appropriate or appropriate?
Appropriate is what you meant. I'm not sure what you said.
I don't remember what I said. We've already recorded. Let me share a little something with you. We've already recorded one movie tonight. This is our second recording, just pulling back the curtain for everybody. And my wife texted a moment ago, this is the first time in, I don't know, probably 2-3 months that I have had any kind of adult beverage. And she texted me, she's like, seems like you're doing just fine. The snippets I'm hearing from upstairs, very interesting. And I'm looking at it
but
going,
when she says interesting, what does she mean?
Bo, I think when she only hears one part of a 4-part conversation and she says interesting, it's a different interesting than what you and I might mean.
But at that point, I would dare say that interesting is the best you could hope for.
It is the best I can hope for, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, well, gents, we're here for Pocahontas. We're gonna paint with all the colors of the wind tonight. So we're gonna get right into this one. Spoiler alert: we spoil freely here, so be warned about that. Make sure you visit our website if you have not done so already. 30podcast.com. That's a 3, a 0, and the word podcast.com, where you can leave us a rating, a voicemail. You could become a co-executive producer via Patreon and donate money whenever Pat says he hates a movie. So. That is typically how our Patreon works. So we would love to have you over there. And thank you to all of our Patreon members who have loved movies that Pat hates and have stuck with us through all these years. Otherwise, I don't know how that stuff works. I don't know how Patreon works. I just know that I need to occasionally I need to find movies that Pat does not like and have him talk about them.
Right.
And then more people join.
It's all been done before, and it will all happen again.
Oh, now I just want to go watch Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm. So say we all.
Movie.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Said it'd be more entertaining than this movie.
It could be. It could be. All right. Well, I think this is gonna be a fun one. I'm already getting the vibe from everybody here, so I think we may have fun with this one. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to be a part of this.
It's a great plan. You're happy to be part of it.
I am happy to be a part of this. I've said that a lot this week. All right, the release date is June 23rd, 1995, rated G, with a runtime of 81 minutes. Mike Gabriel and Eric Goldberg are the directors. They did Rescuers Down Under, Fantasia 2000, Aladdin, and Hercules. The writers were Carl Binder, Susanna Grant, and Philip Lazebnik, which I think was the race that Darth Maul was in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
They did The Lion King. Why are you looking at me that way, Bo? Come on. The Lion King. Aaron
because
Brockovich.
only you could connect Pocahontas to Darth Maul and Star Wars in less than 2 moves.
I really appreciate in the director's cut how when you get to the battle scene at the end of this, they're playing Duel of the Fates. It sounds
Mm-hmm.
Just very culturally appropriate.
Takes it up to the next level.
It does. It does. Aaron Brockovich, the writers, did Lion King, Aaron Brockovich, Few Good Men, Mulan, and The Prince of Egypt. Producer was Jim Pentecost, who did Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire. Composer was Alan Menken, who did Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. Art direction by Michael Giamo, who did Frozen. Editor was H. Lee Peterson, who did The Rescuers Down Under and Beauty and the Beast. The production studio is Walt Disney Feature Animation. Budget was $55 million, box office $346.1 million, so it did all right. Rotten Tomatoes gives this one a 67%. Cinema Score gives it an A-. Mel Gibson, the Braveheart himself, John Smith. He did Braveheart and Lethal Weapon. Irene Bedard played Pocahontas. She was in Smoke Signals and Dances with Wolves. David Ogden Stiers was Governor Ratcliffe, was in MASH and Beauty and the Beast. John Kassir played Miko. Was in Tales from the Crypt and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Russell Means, who passed in 2012, played Chief Powhatan. He was in The Last of the Mohicans and Dances with Wolves. Linda Hunt played Grandmother Willow. She was in The Year of Living Dangerously and Kindergarten Cop. Christian Bale was Thomas. He was in Empire of the Sun and The Dark Knight. Billy Connolly was Ben. He was in Mrs. Brown and Braveheart. Jim Cummings. So I'm going to stop here for a second, because hearing Jim Cummings' voice come out of one of those other characters and thinking, wait, is that warrior Winnie the Pooh? It was a little off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little weird to hear that voice, because sometimes I've heard Jim Cummings' voice in other cartoons, and it's less Winnie the Pooh sounding. This one, it was very Winnie the Pooh-esque. It was very Pooh-like. Which some in here may describe the movie that way. I don't know. He was in Winnie the Pooh and The Lion King. Joe Alasky was Flit. He was in Tiny Toon Adventures and Duck Dodgers. All right, so some quick trivia about this one. The Colors of the Wind. The song was very successful, won both the Academy Award for Best Original Song and the Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song. I believe it also did hit number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was one of the highest charting Disney songs of the 90s, performed by Vanessa Williams in the film and for the single release. Let's see. While Mel Gibson did provide the voice of John Smith, he did not, just in case you're wondering, he did not perform the character songs. They had someone else singing the part. Here's something that may come as a shock. Disney employed several Native American consultants to ensure cultural sensitivity in the film's portrayal of Native American life.
Well, I do.
Similar to the
Shocking.
way Star Trek Voyager did.
I was going to say, whoever it was that advised on Chakotay and his face tattoos, I imagine it's probably the same consultants that they used.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't consult historians.
No, not at all.
Wouldn't want to make a movie inspired by history and let history mess up your story, now would you?
You know, some people call it history. Some people call it herstory. This one, I think, is Disntory.
Dysentery?
Yes. Yeah. I was
Sure,
trying to
some of
go with
that.
like Disney history, but yes, it does sound a little bit more like dysentery.
You know, I've been thinking about this too, in that when they take a fictionalized story and they make changes, while I do have some beef with that.
Yeah.
This is their only foray into telling a story based on historical characters and historical events. Everything else is almost everything else is based on either an original idea or based on, a short story of some kind or piece of fiction.
Yeah.
So to take the treatment of their fiction pieces and apply that to history, it was a bad move.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Katzenberg, I know you're listening to us because you don't have anything else going on these days. It was a bad idea, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and I blame you for a lot of it because you pushed to get this story to be the story that was developed for the film.
Do you think Jeffrey Katzenberg mows his own lawn?
He might.
Okay.
You might have to now.
Maybe he listens to the podcast while he watches someone else mow his lawn.
That could be.
That seems par for the course.
He was acting VP of Disney Animation at the time that this was being put together, and this and Lion King were being worked on simultaneously, and this was perceived to be the bigger of the two films. So you had a lot of animators that were leaning towards working on Pocahontas.
I remember reading that they were people wanting to like jump ship from Lion King to come over to this one.
And Katzenberg really wanted to pick up where the success of Beauty and the Beast left off, and that he thought that Disney could put together another animated feature that would be so good it could be nominated for Best Picture the way that Beauty and the Beast was. So he was the one that really pushed for the lean into the romantic storyline. Let that be the driving force of this story that we're going to tell. And I mean, I think the only thing they got right is the fact that once there was someone named Pocahontas and once there was someone named John Smith. That might be,
and
it's almost like watching Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, there was a harbor and it was called Pearl Harbor, and yes, it was attacked. And that's where the similarity between the movie and history ends.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yes, there was a Pocahontas. Yes, there was a John Smith. And then everything else, Katzenberg directed his team to embellish and change for the sake of going after Oscar gold.
Are you trying to tell me that the real Pocahontas was not, at this period in time, a hypersexualized 20-year-old adult grown woman wearing suggestive, revealing clothing?
No, I believe she was 10 at this time in history. She was about 10 years old and ended up marrying some other bloke and was paraded around Europe as, look at how we can tame the savage Indians over across the ocean. Mm-hmm. And I believe she died at the ripe old age of 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's not going to sell dolls, Jeff.
Oh, I know. Hey, look, you're talking to a huge Disney guy.
Oh, I know.
I get it. I understand. But, I enjoy the theme parks. I enjoy a lot of the films, but this one I do not enjoy. And it's interesting because it wasn't the story that I found off-putting initially. Mm-hmm. There were other things about this movie that I didn't like when it came out. And then as I got older and learning about the history, the true history of Pocahontas, that really started bugging me about what they were presenting in this film.
Okay. This is very interesting to me because knowing how big of a Disney fan you are, and you and I, we didn't talk about this before we were going to be recording this episode. I'm going into this thinking, and honestly, I've seen this. This is probably the second, maybe third time that I've seen this movie. Mm-hmm. And if I could, as a kid, I wasn't thinking about the history part. So I remember, enjoying it. It wasn't my favorite Disney movie, but I remember enjoying it. It was fine as a kid. And then watching it this time around, if, like you said, if I could separate this from being something that was actual history, if it had its basis in a fictional source material, then that might have been better. But I'm watching this movie, and the way I'm coming at this, I'm thinking, oh man, I don't want to get in a fight with Jeff. Jeff loves Disney stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm worrying about it like all afternoon. I'm like, man, how do I say how much this movie
I'm sure
bothers
that
me?
was your big worry all day today.
It was, yeah. Why, was something else going on?
Fine.
Was something else going on that I should have been paying attention to?
Maybe we wouldn't be having the issues at work we were having if you had been paying attention.
Yeah. I have a follow-up comment I'm not going to make, but
oh, there it is.
I see that record button is on.
Yeah. There's a bus driving by, and I don't want to throw anybody under it just yet.
You better make sure it doesn't roll over you. That's the real.
No, I'm standing very far away from the curb. Okay, well, I feel a little bit better now.
Did you anticipate that I was going to be like, more Disney, more better, hoorah, let's go?
Not to that degree, but I was like, man, I didn't talk to Jeff. I don't know if Jeff loves this movie, so I don't want to be like Pat and just ruin something for him by hating on something he loves. So
that's my job. It's my job. That's my job.
Yeah,
I ruin all the things.
kind of discussed this movie the other day, and he and I were both kind of in alignment on some of our viewpoint of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
We can get
Pat,
into
Pat, I didn't say you ruin stuff. I just said you don't like all the other things people like.
Okay. That's true. That's true. There's certain things I don't like that other people do.
You know, but that's that's partially your role here is you bring in the Patreon folks because of that. But
That's
you
my
are
role.
the villain of this group.
beyond that, we love you.
Hey, sometimes you get the co-host you want, but sometimes you get the co-host you need, right?
Pat is
That's where
the
it is.
co-host we deserve right now, and I say more Pat, more better.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the wolf cry in the pale
moonlight?
moonlight?
I feel like that's the movie we need.
Yes.
Oh, that is the movie we need, but it's,
Have you ever heard the wolf cry in the pale moonlight? I don't know what it means. I ask it of all my prey. I just like the sound of it.
Pocahontas looks at John Smith and says, "Have I ever told you how I got these scars?"
Isn't that the scene where John Smith walks in, looks around, and goes, "Nice place, lots of space."
Lots of space. Yeah, there's my favorite quote of the movie.
Okay. All right. In a world where the winds whisper secrets and the rivers flow with ancient wisdom, a clash of cultures ignites a flame of forbidden love. A free-spirited Native American princess, Pocahontas, finds her destiny intertwined with the fate of her people. As a courageous English explorer, John Smith arrives on the shores of her homeland, but their burgeoning romance, which doesn't really exist in real life, faces the wrath of prejudice and the threat of war. As Pocahontas must choose between her heart and the future of Disney's income. This episode, discover the colors of the wind in Disney's Pocahontas. All right, major
You
moments.
definitely can't play the trailer for this one. The mouse will come after you on YouTube for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm planning on going to visit Disney World in a few months. Can we make?
You're out. You're not even allowed in.
What we can
They're
use this.
putting up a big sign right now with a big X through it. No.
Okay, for the rest of the episode, Jeff gets a pseudonym so he can still go to Disney World. What do you want to be called?
Call me Dennis.
Dennis. Okay. All right. So everybody, it's great to have everybody here this evening. Bo, how are you doing?
Quite well, John.
Good. Pat, how are you?
Great.
Wonderful. Dennis, how are you doing?
I'm feeling really old. I've been working really hard, and I was born 75 years ago, and I'm old.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's getting rough.
Yeah. Dennis has heard the wolf cry.
I used to chase wolves when I was a kid out in the fields because there was nothing but prairie land and logs.
Right. They didn't, because baseball wasn't invented yet, I don't think.
I invented baseball.
You did? Okay. All right. Great. Well, Dennis, it's lovely to have you here. If it gets close to bedtime, just let me know, and we'll make sure the nurse comes to get you.
What?
That's okay. It's all right. Major moments in Disntory. The journey to the New World. The Susan Constant sails from London to Virginia, carrying English settlers led by Governor Ratcliffe. During a hurricane, John Smith heroically rescues Thomas, played by Batman, from being swept overboard. Pre-Moana, Pocahontas, daughter of Chief Powhatan, feels uncertain about her future, especially regarding an arranged marriage with Kokum. She dreams of a spinning arrow, which she doesn't know exactly what that is, but believes it is symbolizing an unknown path ahead. Ratcliffe orders the settlers to build Jamestown for his good friend King Jimmy and search for gold, driven by his greed and desire. That was the one that got you, Pat?
That's the one that got me. I'm sorry. King Jimmy. That's just funny stuff.
You know.
I do know.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Pocahontas visits Grandma Willow, who warns her about the newcomers. While exploring, John Smith encounters Pocahontas. Though wary at first, they communicate by using the little multicolored leafy universal translator and develop a bond, fascinated by each other's cultures. one slightly more fascinated than the other. John begins to see the world from Pocahontas' perspective. Tensions grow between the English and the tribe, leading to a skirmish. The tribe forbids further contact, but Pocahontas secretly, her father forbids further contact, but she secretly continues meeting with John. It's a very Romeo and Juliet kind of a thing. Their meetings are both discovered by members of the tribe and Governor Ratcliffe himself. John and Pocahontas share a kiss as both sides spy on them. An enraged Quocum attacks John, but Thomas, following Ratcliffe's orders, kills Quocum, and John is captured by the tribe, and the tribe declares war on the English. The tribe prepares to execute John at dawn, while Ratcliffe rallies the settlers for battle. Pocahontas, desperate to stop the violence, realizes that the spinning arrow from her dream is John's compass, leading her to her destiny, or her density. As John is about to be executed, Pocahontas throws herself over him, convincing him to seek peace instead of war. Both sides stand down, but Ratcliffe refuses to accept the truce. There was a moment in here, and there was a line that he said, and I was trying to remember what it was. It was something along the lines of, we reached that point, and he says something along the lines of, from this day, the chief says, from this day forward, if there is to be more killing, it will not start with me. And in my head, like, one of the English guys just stands up and goes, all right, we're good with that.
We'll take care of all the killing.
We got it. We got it from here. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. Yes.
Ratcliffe fires at the chief, but John takes the bullet to save him. Furious, the settlers turn on Ratcliffe and arrest him for his treachery. John is left critically wounded. John has to return to England for treatment, and Ratcliffe is sent back because they don't have doctors in the New World.
Nope.
Nobody has any kind of medicine whatsoever. I'm sure no one knows how to deal with a wound of any kind. And so let's take the several weeks trip back on a boat to England. Ratcliffe is sent back in disgrace. John asks Pocahontas to come with him, but she chooses to stay and protect her people. She watches his ship sail away. Come sail away with me. Come sail away. Standing atop a cliff, embracing her destiny, and a single tear falls from her eye.
I'll do it.
I don't think she had a single tear, but it's the imagery I'm used to. So
Yes.
yeah. All right. I think that's all of the plotty stuff that we need to know. So much like digging for gold, let's dig for some deep thoughts here.
And now, deep thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot.
Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with a positive question and ask, do you recall the first time you saw this? And the first time you saw this, did you enjoy this?
I saw it a couple of days ago, and it was nice.
Okay.
I don't remember when I first saw it. I know I've seen it once before now, twice at the most, and it was fine when I saw it the first time. I think the older you get with something like this, the more you detect the inaccuracies and the just,
Yep.
not greatness of it all.
Yeah.
I don't recall the first time that I saw this. I know it wasn't the theater because I was really sort of off-put by the animation style.
Okay.
Yeah, it's you can definitely see a change in the animation in that it's a bit more 2D, a bit more geometric. That's the description that I found.
Okay. Yeah.
And to me, this film starts to represent the more interest in getting money as opposed to interest in telling good stories, part of Disney. Because the movies after this one tend to follow like the same type of, I always, in my mind, called it more like lazy animation. Right? We're draw just enough so you know what it is, but we're not going to give you the detail that we gave you in the likes of Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin or Lion King. You know, the Emperor's New Groove, Hercules, all of those follow suit in the type of style of animation. And to me, that just detracts from after seeing what they could do and what they did do for a couple of years there. I was just like, this isn't. I don't like this. I don't like how this looks. So that was my first big issue with this movie, and that's what kind of kept me from watching it for a while. And then, again, once you start learning about history, and again, I go into this knowing that Disney doesn't tell the true story of any story that they tell unless they've made up the story themselves, right? But any movie that's adapted is highly changed from its original in some way. So you expect that. But when you play that game with characters and events that really happened, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? It comes across as more we're trying to rewrite history in a way that we want to believe that it was, as opposed to how it was, and there's such an inherent danger in that. So that's the more off-putting part for me now, is that I watch this movie and it's just like I said, like, yeah, there was someone named Pocahontas, or her nickname was Pocahontas, and yeah, there was someone named John Smith, but that's almost like really where the similarities end between this movie and what actually happened. John Smith wasn't a likable guy, right? By a lot of accounts, John Smith was not really all that pleasant of a person, and to see him portrayed as almost this hero that swoops in on a rope and saves the day. Again, it's completely rewriting history. So I would really love to have a conversation with Jeffrey Katzenberg and just be like, were you so driven by your greed and your want and recognition for what you did while you were in charge that history means absolutely nothing? I don't know. And I've not been able to come across any commentary that he's made about this movie or about the changes to history that they introduce. So I don't know, but I'd be very intrigued to find out.
Yeah, I know when I first saw this, I mean, we, in our family, you pretty much went to the theater to see every Disney movie that came out. And then a lot of times we'd have that movie at home, like either, we'd buy a copy on VHS, or, it would get rented regularly because my sister loved pretty much everything Disney. And so I'm sure she watched this several times. I remember seeing it in the theater. I would have been roughly 14 at the time. So, I was probably going to the theater to watch a fun movie and get some popcorn and spend time with the family. So I don't know that, there could have been something that seemed interesting to me. I don't recall. And then I've really only seen this movie, maybe, including this week, I've probably only seen this twice, maybe 3 times, possibly. And on its surface, it's, again, if this was a fictional story, if it wasn't something, and as a kid, I didn't care as much about the historical part of it, but watching it now as an adult, and especially, I had also watched this week because I felt like this was going to be something that would be relevant. If you go on, as of right now, as of the time we're recording this in February of 2025, if you go on Tubi, there's a really interesting documentary called Real Engine, ReelInjun, and it's all about the way Indians, Native Americans have been portrayed in film for the last 100 years. And they talk about, from the very beginning, they talk about like probably the earliest motion picture, the earliest moving images were of Native Americans doing a dance. And that's some of the earliest even moving pictures that you ever had. And from there, like how Indians were depicted in film, in television, and how that has just kept going for years and years and decades, and even for young kids living on the reservation. When they would watch movies, they would see movies that portrayed their people in the way that Hollywood had chosen to portray them, And so you've even got the difficulty of you've now, shown an entire, probably couple of generations of people at least, when they see their own people on film and television, it's the way Hollywood has chosen to portray them, and it's not pleasant. It's not good. So, standing on its own again, as I said earlier, if this was a purely fictional story and they were taking it from fictional source material, movie is fine. Again, it's not my favorite of the Disney movies, but there's just too much. As I was watching it this time around, especially, there was just too much that I'm just watching and I'm going, no, I don't think so. Like, there's no reason. This doesn't have to be a love story. Like, it doesn't have to be a love story. It can absolutely be a story about cultures clashing and trying to find common ground between the two cultures.
Yep.
No reason that there has to be a Romeo and Juliet style love story going on here.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, the most interesting thing to me this time was all the similarities between this and Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
You have a talking tree. You've got an Entmoot.
Okay.
When they're getting ready for battle, everybody's putting on the red hand of Saruman.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Lord of the Rings-ish.
All right. I get you, man. I get you.
That was the most interesting part to me this time around. Otherwise, I was getting a little frustrated with it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many ways that this could have been, if they wanted a prestigious, to follow up Beauty and the Beast, if they wanted a prestigious, let's do something where we tell a story from history. Let's if we are moving beyond, and maybe this is their attempt, I don't know, if they're moving beyond using the fictional stories, the fairy tales, those type of things, myths and legends and all that, to saying, now let's give you a Disney depiction of historical events. I honestly think you did not need the love story in it. I really do think you could have done this and done it well and still stayed fairly accurate to, the actual history.
Right.
Moana could have been a 10-year-old. She didn't need to be, a 20-whatever-year-old that she's supposed to be in this movie.
Pocahontas.
What did I say?
Moana.
Oh, yeah, I keep confusing those because it's the same movie. But Moana's better.
Yeah. All right.
Is it the same movie?
I mean, in some ways, similar. Both of the characters have similar motivations, and they like being on the water. They have villains who like shiny things.
Oh, God.
And they sing about shiny things.
Yeah, I'm looking at a list of the animated films from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't lean back into history.
No.
At all. Right? And it's not as though they waited to see how this one was going to land before they started their next project, because their next animated movie comes out in June of 96.
Right.
With Get Hunchback, and then Hercules in 97, and Mulan in 98. I mean, so I'm curious. I'd be curious as to why this, of all the things in history that you want to try to depict, why this? If you wanted to step away from retelling a fiction story, what is it about the Pocahontas story that was so interesting that you'd want to try to make a movie about it and then not tell the Pocahontas story? Does the movie have any merit or any redeeming anything? The music's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The songs are good. They're, in terms of Disney songs, Disney music, they're not ones that we go to a lot when we're playing music with the kids. Or, we're not pulling from this movie as much as we are some of the prior films. But it's not bad music. It's beautiful music, well orchestrated, well performed, well sung. But yeah, I mean, now at this point in my life, when I'm looking at this as, just someone who's studied history, as I'm looking at it from the viewpoint of a father who's going to have kids that are going to be asking questions about the movie, I need to figure out how I want to respond to some of the questions. You know, my oldest boy is very much into understanding history. He seeks knowledge. He seeks truth. He wants to know the real thing, not what someone says in a story. You know, oftentimes it's, well, can we look that up to make sure that's right? Okay, yeah, let's look it up. You know, when it comes to watching a movie like this, and when he starts asking questions, I need to figure out, well, how much do I need to tell him now versus when he's a little bit older, can understand a bit more. Like when I'm going to tell him, like, yeah, John Smith was actually 28 and Pocahontas was 10. I don't need to tell him that. I don't want him to know that at his age. I don't want to have to explain a lot of that. I don't know. It's just, it's an odd choice for a story.
Yeah. I did find an article that came out several months before the movie came out from the LA Times. So this article came out in February of 95. And they say here, they interview the Disney animation president at the time, Peter Schneider, and they said that the aim of Pocahontas is to celebrate Native American society. And his quote says, "We wanted to offer an ennobling and empowering view of Native Americans that hadn't been provided in cinema before. This is a stupendous reaffirmation of a culture and language that's been lost." To which the current living Native American people in 1995 said, "Hi." Yeah, then somebody responded to that and said, "This is a nice film if it didn't have the name Pocahontas on it." And then this is somebody, apparently this was a key consultant on the movie who said, "Disney promised me historical accuracy, but there will be a lot to correct when I go into the classrooms." So clearly they didn't, like their consultants that they used saw a version of the movie or saw something about the movie, and then by the time, probably very early on, and then by the time it actually started getting screened to people, then they were like, "Oh, that's no, that's not what we talked about." And they even follow it up with the producer, Jim Pentecost, says he spoke briefly with the founder of American Indians in Film, Sonny Skyhawk, and he was under the impression, the producer of the movie was under the impression that the main concern was making sure they used Native American actors in the movie. Mm-hmm. So basically it's like, well, we did that. We got you guys Native American actors. What's your problem? Well, yeah, so you got Native American actors, but you butchered the actual story. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to sweep it away and say, well, I mean, at least Disney tried, but I don't think it really doesn't seem like they tried here, because there's still, even at the time, there's notable objections that people seem to have over this, and this is months before the movie even came out.
Yeah, it was like they, excuse me, it feels like they were just checking boxes.
Yeah.
Whether that's actually what was happening, but that's what it feels like. We joke about the Voyager consultants, but I mean,
not too different.
No, I mean it's crazy that it's crazy that Disney wouldn't do better. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
they would do better today, one would hope.
Maybe. Well, anything else that we want to say about Pocahontas? I think that's, it's an odd little entry. I mean, it has some things that are fine about it. Well, here, I'll say this. One of the most positive things is, love to hear a bunch of Scottish accents. That's a big positive for me.
Well,
you can throw Billy Connolly. Yeah, throw Billy Connolly in any movie you want. I'll listen to him.
Well, he initially tried not to do or use his actual voice, but had such a hard time with an English accent. I believe somehow hurt his vocal cords trying to do an accent, that they were like, you know what? You do you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nobody should ever tell Billy Connolly to try to hide his accent. So, well, anything else we want to mention about this one before we go into our 3 questions?
So, why is it that we chose this one and not a Goofy movie? Because a Goofy movie out in 1995, I feel is a much better movie than Pocahontas.
That was I was about to ask you that question if nobody else had any other questions. Is this the one that we should have dropped instead of Goofy Movie?
I feel like Goofy Movie is a severely underrated movie to begin with, because it's, when you think of Disney animated films, you're thinking of, what was started by the likes of The Little Mermaid, and then what had the big media or publicity push behind it, right? What had the marketing behind it. And in late 94, going into 95, it was Pocahontas over a Goofy Movie. And Goofy Movie, I think, it's such a fun movie. Also great music, great songs. And I really love the fact that in a Goofy Movie, the focus is the relationship between a father and his son. I've not having any sisters in my life, the relationship between my dad and myself was one that's very important to me, and not having any daughters, the relationship that I have with my own boys is very important to me. So I really enjoyed the fact that Goofy Movie put an emphasis on this idea of this relationship between fathers and sons, and why is this, why is that usually a difficult relationship to really discuss and have conversations about.
Yeah.
I think Goofy Movie did a great job with that. So I would have dropped this and happily talked about Goofy Movie instead.
I will tell you, I looked real quick. I can tell you right off the bat, the reason that this one got in there instead of Goofy Movie was that Goofy Movie, I think in the voting that we do like a few months before we get to whatever year we're in, we got 2 votes, and Pocahontas got 5 total votes. So,
Okay.
so that'd be why. And honestly, I didn't vote for Goofy Movie because I have never seen it. So, but I would be curious to go watch it. If we have, I would say if we have space, the way you've defended Goofy Movie, I'd say if we have space to fit another Disney movie or cartoon movie in somewhere here in the year, I'd be happy to put it in because I haven't seen it, but I've only ever heard good things about it.
Just curious, did I vote for Goofy Movie?
You did not.
No. I have seen it. I did like it many moons ago.
The only person of the hosts who voted for Goofy Movie was Jeff.
Okay.
So Jeff and then one listener, I don't know who, but one listener voted for Goofy Movie, so that's the 2 votes.
Well, I apologize, Jeff.
It's all Bo's.
Well, you should.
I did.
Goofy Movie has such a great fandom to it as well.
Yeah.
That when there were first talks about retheming the Rock and Roller Coaster ride, the ride at Hollywood Studios in Orlando, the thought that everyone was pushing for was the character of Powerline, who sings the song Eye to Eye, would be a perfect fit for Rock and Roller Coaster. Now we know that that's not happening. We know it's going to be the Muppets instead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you should watch it. I'd be very interested in hearing your feedback about it. Did we lose Patrick?
I feel like we might have.
Is he sleeping?
He probably is. He's dreaming about the colors of the wind.
And the wolves and blue corn moons and all those things.
Somebody find a warm part of the windy river and put his hand in it.
Why is this river warm? And why is that guy smiling that way?
That's not how this is supposed to go. All right. On that note, I think it's time for 3 questions.
Let's do 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, question number 1. Flit and Miko.
Wait, is that Pat?
Pat's
back.
Pat's back. Pat, how you doing?
I'm better now.
You missed some of our conversation there, buddy.
I did, and I tried, and it was funny because I was trying to warn you, like, guys, it might be a long one on this one. So I'm sorry if I broke up any of the flow.
No,
we just flowed over you, so don't worry about it.
I love being flowed over.
It's probably the right answer there, I think.
Yeah.
Question number 1. Flit and Miko follow Pocahontas around for the whole movie. What animal would you like to have as your sidekick?
Does Pat count?
Sure.
That might be my answer.
Okay.
Only if Jeff can be mine.
Pat as in Pat Canagalo, or Pat as in Pat from Saturday Night Live?
Pat as in Pat. My favorite animal is the okapi. But I feel like in terms of having an animal sidekick, I'd want something smaller.
Okay.
I haven't quite figured out what that would be. Maybe a fox.
Yeah, they're cool. I was thinking some sort of cat.
Okay.
I don't know how big I would want the cat to be, but I'm picturing a big one, like a big old saber-toothed tiger, kind of. Yeah, like a big old cat would be cool.
I'm gonna backtrack for just a second because I want to know more. Why the okapi? Why is that your favorite animal?
I think okapis are beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I when we go to the zoo, that's where I have to stop.
Yeah.
Just I could spend, and I have spent significant time. There's a couple of benches along the okapi enclosure over at Brookfield.
Oh, nice.
And I'll just park myself on the bench and just watch them stroll around. And there was one zoo trip that I went on that the okapi, there's an indoor viewing area at Brookfield, and the okapi had its head through the bars. And if I could have actually pet the okapi, and I had to really resist because I was like, I know they don't want guests interacting with the animals, but man, might have been the only time I ever could have.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to get kicked out of the zoo, so I just
that's true.
Didn't want to do that for the rest of the
discretion is the better part of valor and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let it be, and I took steps back so I wouldn't be too tempted to reach out and pet it a little bit. But
it's tough to explain to your kids someday. It's like, Dad, can we go to the zoo? Well, your mother's gonna have to take you because
I'm
you guys can.
I've been banned.
Dad's photo is up at the inside of the window of the admissions office there. So no, I can't take you to the zoo. But I feel like I need a sidekick that's roughly my size and speed. So I'm gonna go with a penguin.
There you go.
I feel like we could just waddle around together.
Waddle around.
Yeah. Good with that. I love penguins. I will do the same with penguins as you do with the okapis. I'll just sit and watch the penguins. And
there is a penguin encounter at Brookfield you could do.
Yes. I haven't done it, but
costs a little bit more, but
yeah.
I thought sure you would have said, I was going to say from the cartoon Brave Star, but I can't remember what that thing was. It wasn't an ox or a bull. It was a bull, wasn't it?
No, it was a horse.
His companion?
It was like a Mustang.
The talking thing that would stand up in that?
Yeah.
Was that a horse?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like a bull and he would ride around on it.
No, yeah. He was, what was his name? 3030, I think was his name.
3030 was it? That's kind of funny.
Yeah, he was like a half robot, half horse.
Yeah. Well, I guess I just gave my own answer because I would have said a horse, but
I figured you'd say a horse, yeah.
Yeah.
A horse or Jeff.
That would be cool too.
Or a horse named Jeff.
3030 Brave Star's talking horse who can transform from a quadruped into a biped.
Yes.
Yeah. That was cool.
And he had a big gun too.
Yeah.
No, the other animal I would consider would be a descented skunk. Once upon a time, I was looking into getting a skunk for a pet.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Because they get descented when they're born at fur farms, and as they get older, when it's determined that their fur isn't going to be quality enough, they can be adopted out as pets.
Really? I did not
Yeah,
know that.
the litter box trained. They're most of the time very gentle. Only thing is they have very poor eyesight, so they're known to nip and bite if they're startled or can't identify something.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah.
Huh. I did not know that.
Skunk would be a fun one.
Yeah.
Skunk.
All right. Question number 2. What is your favorite food? We have to go to a food question every now and then. What is your favorite food that is corn-based or features corn as a major ingredient?
So I have found.
Oh.
Well, I do, but I have found something new this year. So I think it's my favorite because it's new and I'm excited about it. I know it's not new. It was new to me. I have discovered the joys and many derivations on elote. And I'm a big fan.
Oh. Okay. I wouldn't have suspected that.
That I'm a big fan?
Is it? I'm looking at a picture. It looks like, if I'm looking at the right picture, it looks like cornbread, like similar.
It's corn, mayonnaise, cheese, Parmesan, or there's a Mexican version of Parmesan cheese that they end up using.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about it is depending on where you go, you can get a completely different version of this. Like some places serve it as like a street corn style in a cup. And they take a bunch of corn and a bunch of mayonnaise and the spices and they mix it up. They hand you a cup and a spoon and tell you to go away. But then some, like you can find recipes where they're taking the whole corn cob and they're cooking it up with the stuff on it. And I'm a sucker for it. Like if I go to a restaurant and they have it, I'm going to order it because I want to see what they did with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see it on a menu as street corn or corn in a cup. But like literally if you Google elote recipe, you're going to see multiple options.
Huh, okay.
And I'm really enjoying it. And yeah. And you can see it's easy for street vendors to do. So you can go to a taco truck, get a couple tacos and an elote and everybody's happy.
Huh. I've never had elote before.
Oh, how do you go wrong with mayonnaise and corn? Really?
Do you have a place that you've gone that has
the
best elote?
My favorite now.
If you were going to send somebody, asking for a friend who happens to be me, if you were going to send somebody to a place to go get some really good elote, where would you send them?
That's a good question because the best stuff I've had has been from like a food truck.
Okay.
There was a food truck just up the walkway from. I'll stop and rewind for a second. Brenda Donna's has a food truck and a catering business, and they were at the Lake County Fair. So we stopped to see her, but just up from her, there was another truck doing elote, and it was fantastic. But like, where could you go like tomorrow and get some? You know who actually has a decent version of it? I think they just call it street corn, not elote. But the Wing Snob in Libertyville has a side dish of it.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if Dos Amigos has one. We've been ordering from there a lot lately.
We go there quite a bit.
I'm trying to think if they have one. One of the taco places we order from has one, and I can't remember which, and it's pretty good too.
Well, I'm going to backtrack and just comment on something you said. Any friend of Donna's with a food truck is a friend of ours.
Yes. Indeed. I agree. And she is quite the chef, that one.
Ooh.
All right, so elote didn't come up. Oh, but it's 11, so I don't think any of these restaurants are going to show.
Well, you've given me several to try, so I will have to do
Dos
that.
Amigos does have a street corn. They call it street corn, though.
All right. Okay.
So there you go.
My answer for this one is I'm always good with the corn on the cob. Growing up, I always loved a good corn on the cob. Corn tortillas, love a really good corn tortilla. Torchy's Tacos has the really good corn tortillas down in Texas. But I know, I mean, popcorn is corn, so maybe I have to go with my standby favorite of movie theater popcorn.
There is something special about movie theater popcorn, that's for sure.
But if we want it more like in the actual form of a bucket of water, form of a cob of corn, I might just go with old school corn on the cob, because that's some good stuff. That's yours too?
Yeah.
If I had to guess for Pat, I'd say just corn on the cob.
Corn on the cob for Pat.
Is that yours, Pat? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say favorite, but did you say that was yours too, Jeff, or were you saying that was my guess for me?
That was my guess for you.
Right.
All right.
I'm trying to, and then corn shells. I'm probably like a corn salsa would be the only thing I would add.
Yep.
You know.
Those are good. All right, then the question that I think if Jeff,
I didn't get to answer the corn question.
Oh, I thought you said corn on the
cob.
My easy answer is a chip.
Yeah.
Of some kind, preferably a nacho cheese Dorito.
Oh, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm simple like that.
Made with real crack.
Outside of that, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Fogo de Chão, but they do a side dish of polenta sticks, fried polenta sticks, which is they're just delicious.
Okay.
So if you ever get a chance to go to a Fogo, which there's going to be a new one opening up in Schaumburg, so if we want to do a 30-something dinner out, I'm all about the Brazilian steakhouse and getting some of the polenta and some of their small bread rolls that have Parmesan cheese inside. Also, also bottomless.
My response to that is yes, have some.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, and then question number 3, the question that I think if Jeff could have reached out and touched someone today, he would have tried to strangle me. At least it's the sense I got.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, right. You're pretty right on there.
Okay. All right. Question number 3. What is your favorite song from a 1990s Disney animated movie? And this one kind of shoots me in the foot as well, because I immediately started thinking, oh, man, I've got so many to choose from. And then the first 3 I think that I was going to choose are all Little Mermaid. And I'm like, that's totally 989. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back to the list to see where tops and bottoms are. All right, so the first animated Disney film of the 90s would be DuckTales, the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. The last animated film of the 90s would be Fantasia 2000.
So I think I can give my answer pretty quickly. I mean, there's a lot of options here, and I feel bad like not including so many others, but I'm going to go with the one that mixes 2 things that I really enjoy together, and that is Aladdin and Robin Williams. So I'm going to go with Friend Like Me.
Yeah, that's hard to walk away from. That's a good one.
I mean, there's so many. Several songs from Beauty and the Beast, several from Lion King, but I'm a huge Robin Williams fan, so I have a hard time not doing Friend Like Me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I went to go listen to it earlier today, and I was pulling it up on my phone, and I had dropped it into a playlist, and then I started driving, and then when it got to that point in the playlist, it was the Will Smith version. I was like, no, stop it.
No.
Stop it.
Brakes.
Just kidding.
I did, actually. I pulled over, and I changed it. I was like, nope, I'm not waiting till I get home. This is ridiculous. Will Smith, please don't hit me.
With your
Oscar season.
Well, yeah. I'm sure he listens while he mows his lawn. He's going to hit me.
Fantasia 2000 is included in the 90s?
Yeah. Looking at what
Okay.
It came out, got it right here. Had it right here. December 17th, 1999.
Okay.
Right under the wire.
Well, that one's solved. I have to say the Firebird.
Yes. I was going to which piece?
As performed by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Pines of Rome would be really, really like, it's kind of hard to not go Pines of Rome, but
Well, I think it was a toss up for me, and since John picked Friend Like Me, I've got to go Hakuna Matata.
I kind of thought you could.
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna
Such a wonderful phrase.
Matata.
It's no passing craze. Do you know what it means?
No worries.
No worries
for the rest of your day.
It's really an interesting problem-free philosophy.
Hakuna Matata. You guys, I'm having a really difficult time with this question. Shocking, I know.
Yeah. And I doubt it helps if I told you could like pick 2 or 3 if you really want to.
It doesn't.
That probably
help.
just makes it worse.
It does.
Okay.
I think though, like I would have to say if I had to pick 3, maybe 4. No more than 4. The title song from Beauty and the Beast, as sung by Angela Lansbury. I just think that music combined with the scene in which it underscores is just Disney animation perfection. I would have to say The Circle of Life from Lion.
Good choice. Good choice.
Just the way that lands in the movie, just the way that it brings you into the world of the movie so nicely. I also really enjoy the song Out There from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Tarzan's got some great stuff in it. Phil Collins did the soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's got some great stuff. And, I'll second Pat's vote for Firebird from Fantasia. Mm-hmm. Jesus, what a beautifully performed piece. So, you know what? That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. I got to go back. I don't know that I've ever seen all of Fantasia 2000. I need to go back and rewatch that.
So good.
Yeah.
So amazing. And I want to say, I remember when that came out, because as we were leaving college, leaving school, going off on winter break, it was like, so you're going to go see it? You're going to go see, I think being the trumpet section guys, it was, are you going to go see Adolf Herseth and Wi-Fi? Not Wi-Fi, Hi-Fi. That was the mantra going over break. Yeah. Fantasia 2000. So you're going to go see Adolf Herseth in Hi-Fi? Maybe they would have said stereo, but because it was the Chicago Symphony Orchestra that was the group that was recording. But yeah, I remember when that sucker came out. That was great.
Well, Pat, before we sign off, I did want to mention I did really like the version of Colors of the Wind that you sent me the other day, the Arturo Sandoval.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's pretty awesome.
That was fun.
That was, I think it was The Latin Train was the album. And then that was like, it was if I remember right, it was a 2-disc set. And that was the second disc, was the single he did with Colors of the Wind.
Oh, nice. And
yeah, if you haven't heard much Arturo Sandoval, phenomenal musician, incredible trumpet player, and pretty cool story too about how he, his roots and where he came from and all that kind of thing. But yeah, he recorded Colors of the Wind, and that's a pretty serious bit of business.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it, folks, for Pocahontas. This is our kids month. So we've got our Patreon is Balto from 1995. Patreon short Captain America Brave New World from this year. We did Toy Story last week. Pocahontas was this week. Our next episode upcoming is our 10th anniversary rewatch, The Extraterrestrial, which I think, Jeff, this was one you put on the list?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, okay. And then we're going to try to get that in with our good friend and Patreon patron, Podrick is going to join us for that one. He had mentioned he had not seen it before, so this will be a first-time watch for him. So excited to do that one. Fine. Then we've got Casper and Babe will finish off the month for me. And then at that point, that'll do, Pig. And that'll be the month of February. So, gentlemen, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, John.
It is. Thank you, John.
All right. Everybody.
Thanks, John.
Be excellent to each other.
Excuse me.
I know, it gets you all choked up, doesn't it?
It does. It just does.
It's parting is such sweet sorrow.
It is.
All right. Everybody be excellent to each other. Go watch some more historically accurate movies, and we'll see you back here next time.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean.